Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a really fascinating chapter all about how to build a school museum from scratch. Seriously, we're going to see how you can transform yourself from just a passive student of history into a hands-on curator of your very own local and family heritage. You know, we often think of history as something super distant, locked away behind thick glass in those massive national buildings. But today, we're going to break down exactly how you can bring those historical narratives right into your own classroom. Let's get into it. Here's our blueprint for today. We'll start with why we need museums, then explore your local history, curate your artifacts, prepare the exhibits, and finally, wrap it up with the final exhibition. Part 1. Why we need museums and how they help us understand our history. So, the absolute most crucial point here is understanding that history isn't just made up of ancient ruins or massive crumbling monuments, right? It's made up of artifacts, and an artifact is simply a human-made object that connects us to our traditions and our culture. These are the physical pieces of the giant puzzle that literally help us build the past in our minds. They show us what ancient people wore, the kind of work they did, and the art they created. A museum? Well, that's just the space where these precious artifacts are safely kept, preserved, and shared with all of us. And you know what? Curating is a totally hands-on, highly accessible activity that you and your friends can do right in your own school. Students can actively organize shelves, handle vintage cameras, examine old stamps, or even set up audio history stations. It absolutely proves that you don't need a massive budget or a towering marble building to preserve culture. You really just need curiosity, a bit of organization, and a willingness to learn. To pull this off, you'll go through 4 main project phases. This framework takes you step by step from investigating the past to proudly presenting it. First up, you learn how professional museums operate, maybe by visiting one or taking a cool virtual tour. Then you identify your own local history. After that, you physically create the museum space with your peers. And finally, the whole shebang comes together when you present your findings to the public and gather their feedback. Okay, moving right along to part 2, exploring your local history and uncovering those hidden stories. I actually want you to think about this right now. What traditional things, family customs, or just really old objects are sitting in your living room today, just waiting to be discovered? Because before you can curate a museum, you kind of have to become an investigator of your own life. Are there traditions passed down through generations? Local stories tied to your specific village or town? Maybe there's an old brass sieve from the 1940s sitting in your kitchen, or a grandparent's journal tucked away in a dusty drawer. Now, get this. An artifact can be as ancient as the Sentinel Room in Dholavira from the Sindhu Sarasvati civilization, or it can be as recent as a 1960s camera with its original flash and lenses. History is a continuous spectrum, so your job as a curator isn't just to find the absolute oldest thing possible. Actually, scratch that. It's way more about finding objects that tell a meaningful story about how people lived, worked, and connected with each other. Part 3. Curating your artifacts, which basically means thoughtfully selecting and preserving what you found. For this chapter's project, you'll want to identify at least 5 artifacts and catalog them using a structured log. Organization is literally the heart of curation. By documenting the name of the artifact, who it belongs to, its age, and its original use, you completely transform a random old object into a documented, historical piece. This log helps you figure out the true significance of each item and helps you decide which pieces will actually make the cut for the final exhibition. And to bridge the old with the new, you can leverage some pretty incredible modern technology. You can use AI tools right on your smartphone, like Google Lens, Adobe Scan, or optical character recognition, usually just called OCR, to translate or decode old family documents. Like if you find a diary written in a language you just don't understand, or faded text that's impossible to read by eye, these apps can instantly make those primary sources accessible. It's a perfect example of using the future to decode the past. Now, as a curator, you really have to remember that some items are made of highly sensitive materials. Preserving them in good condition is your absolute top priority. Our heritage is a massive source of pride, and it's our duty to protect it. So you'll need basic supplies, things like cleaning brushes, soft cloths, and proper storage containers or display boxes. Whenever you're handling these items, you've got to do so gently to avoid any degradation, ensuring they easily survive for the next generation to appreciate. All right, part 4, preparing the exhibits and getting ready to tell those unique stories to your visitors. There is a story behind absolutely each and every artifact, and it's your job to bring it to life. You can use a bunch of creative presentation methods to do this. You might find an awesome local folk story connected to the object, or you might need to develop your very own narrative based on your research. You can even make audio or video clips to accompany the display, which gives visitors a super cool multimedia experience. Just a heads up, be sure to practice your oral description with your group first so you're ready to confidently speak on the big day. Beyond just talking about them, you'll also need to craft brief, crystal clear labels for every single object. Using chart paper or cards, you'll map out exactly what is written on each label. Think of this as the object's ID card. Without a label, an antique tool just kind of looks like a piece of rusty metal, right? But with a label, boom, it becomes the crucial 19th century farming implement that fed an entire family. Clear communication on these labels ensures everyone knows exactly what they're looking at. And finally, part 5, the final exhibition, where you get to share all your hard work. On launch day, you'll want to follow a simple checklist to make sure everything runs perfectly. First, carefully set up your tables, stands, and display boards, double-checking that all your artifacts are secure and properly labeled. Then, it's time to hype it up. Create posters, flyers, maybe even some social media posts to spread the word. Send out official invitations to your parents, school staff, and the wider community. And crucially, whatever you do, don't forget to set up a visitor's book right by the entrance or exit. So why is that visitor's book such a big deal? Well, because a true historian and curator always learns from their audience. Collecting feedback from your visitors, fellow students, and teachers helps you understand what parts of your museum really clicked with people and what areas might have been, a bit confusing or could be improved for next time. Reading those comments is absolutely essential for your growth in this whole project. The chapter leaves us with this fantastic quote: "Our heritage is the source of our pride and honor. It is our duty to preserve it." That really perfectly sums up why we do this work. Taking the time to build a school museum isn't just some boring academic exercise. Taking care of these artifacts is how we actively honor the people who came before us. By understanding their tools, their art, and their daily lives, we develop a way deeper respect for the foundation our current world is built upon. So now that you know exactly how to build a museum from scratch, all the way from hunting for local artifacts in your living room to cataloging them, designing exhibits, and opening your doors, the only question left is for you. What legacy will you curate and leave behind for the future? What story will your exhibition tell the world? I highly encourage you to look around your home today with a fresh set of eyes. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy curating.